city, so I don't think, but I don't know.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So why don't, John, why don't we get started?
Sure.
Thanks for joining us this week. So
Awesome.
everyone who's with us, we have this week John Fitzgerald, and John has a rich history in regards to just overall sport, right? So well over 20 years from playing
Yeah.
to the mental performance side, the sports psych,
Yeah.
coaching,
Yeah.
and then also the athletic therapy, massage therapy, and more kind of the strength and conditioning part too.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct. Yeah.
every time we talk and going through your bio, it's just all those different layers in regards to sport over the years. So
Yeah.
it's great having you on.
Thank
And
you.
what you and I, we talked, we were kind of talking a little bit earlier before people jumped in that
Right.
we spoke this morning a little bit. We had a little conversation, and I was discussing with you kind of where we have been going with this IG Live Thursday, right? So we start off with Dr. Jason Galea. Jay's on the chat here this week, but him and I started out, we just kind of saw it as, let's just kind of go through kind of the sign of the times, right? Like, let's look at sports psych and mental skills training with athletics. And when we started this, COVID-19 started to make an impact, and then sports started shutting down, and we started talking about the mental skills in regards to not having the sport.
Mm-hmm.
And then since then, I've had on athletes, coaches, an athletic director, strength and conditioning coach. So I wanted to get perspective from all these different angles. And I thought it was a good idea to be able to bring it back to where we started. So I don't know if I'm going to continue this, like in regards to bringing the sports psych, but it felt right to have you come in to be able to bring it back to the mental skills training part. So
Yeah.
I appreciate you joining me and then joining us. And a question for you is, just to kind of start us off, what's been your experience like over the last couple of months with the health challenges?
Yeah, if you're saying personally, for me, I was laid off on my job, so I've been playing teacher for my kids. Been just like a lot of people. In regards to talking to different coaches, I just got off the phone with a friend of mine who's a junior college coach, hockey coach. And interesting enough, he was saying the challenge he had this year, that he's actually spent more time talking to players that he's recruiting and families. So it was actually a really good, this COVID actually changed the way he's going to recruit in the future, because he feels like in years past, he'd be talking to the kid or the player and the parent, and then he's like, just get on the ice. Now it's getting more in depth, what they're looking for. What are their challenges? What are their teaching challenges? And, what are their habits at home? What do they like? What are they, what kind of person are they outside of their sport, obviously? So that's been kind of my experience. But personally, yeah, family. I have two boys, and the boys they're biting at the bit to get to do sports. And right now, obviously, things are put on the back burner.
Yeah, yeah. And as you mentioned, in regards to the one person you talked to today, it's just a different way of going about almost that process, right? From recruiting to developing to that transition to whenever that athlete goes on to the next stage. But it feels like that kind of deeper understanding of the athlete now is pretty important.
Yeah, and I think what I coach U10s, and I told my parents when I talk to their kids, I go, I'm recruiting your kid, but I'm also recruiting parents. You know what I mean? So you talk to them to kind of see what kind of parent they are, how they're going to be in the stands, how they're going to be with being hands off and really trusting the coaching staff to take care of their kids.
Yeah, yeah. Have you had, like, if we can kind of split up into maybe your coaching hat to the listening to parents, like in regards to kind of where we were weeks ago to where we are now, like what sort of the conversations are you having with the athletes, their parents? What's your general kind of thoughts on what you're hearing?
just when we're going to start, especially with hockey. I know my boys play baseball, and that season's been kind of wiped clean. But hockey, they're just like, when is this going to start? Do you have any idea? Interesting enough, Massachusetts hockey actually has a webinar this evening at 7 o'clock on kind of the process or what's going to happen with the rinks opening. So tonight at 7, be interesting. I'm going to try to get on and listen to it. I don't know if I will be able to, but I'd be curious of what they put some things in place. But I think as we get closer to that phase 2 in Massachusetts on June 8th, we'll get a clearer picture. And tonight, I think we'll definitely clear things up too.
Yeah, yeah. And it sounds like as different parts of the world, and we're primarily our conversations are in the U.S. and Canada, but it feels like different groups are going at different sort of rates of coming back to sport or having those conversations.
Yeah.
But regardless of the area of North America, it feels like it's going to be different, right? And
even Peter, I talked to some club coaches, soccer coaches the last week, and what they're doing is I have a couple coaches that are U18, and what they're doing is they're actually taking video submission of games. So they have to do, it has to be a little bit different. And then they're doing a lot of virtual training with their current team and their athletes. And that's something that they have to stay on daily and weekly. So it's not something that they have to follow, and they have to, the coach can keep track of what they're doing and what they're not doing.
Yeah. But in regards to kind of our conversation now, but even previously that I mentioned with coaches and athletes, I feel like the ones, be it the coaches and the athletes that are connected, it feels like they're taking it on a little bit differently. Just when you listen to them, it feels different from how they are talking about this adjustment. And for everyone across the board, it's challenging, right? I haven't heard one person say it's not challenging, but it feels like the people who are on Zoom together, from it could be someone coming in, it could be a technical training. It feels like those people are talking differently about this experience.
Yeah, I agree. And it's funny, even talking to the hockey coach, he's noticing knowing that they're getting closer to the date that they can actually open up and do some more recruiting. He knows the players that he's kept in contact weekly, and not only just to say, hey, how you doing, how are things going, and then checking in on what they're doing for training. Then the guys that are not checking in, not reaching out to the coach. And when they finally get back on the ice, I think that's the
yeah.
And hopefully that these players are doing something, maybe not exactly what they're doing, but hopefully they're not going to get back on the ice and, feel like they were back in a couple of years ago. So I don't know. Be interesting to see what they do.
Yeah. Hey, can we touch on just a couple of the last points that you mentioned? So
Yeah.
I would love to get your coach sports psych perspective on this. Is like, what do you think are going to be some of the challenges or things that you're going to have to take care of as a coach, but also maybe the mental skills part when you get back?
Yeah, I think the anxiousness of getting back, the unknown, how that's going to affect them. I know there's a few some of the U10 kids that I coach, the parents have said, we don't want our kid to be exposed because we all got the flu in December. So one person got it and went through the house. So I think there's the anxiousness of getting back, of the unknown, and how the COVID could rebound, and they're trying to avoid any rebound. Obviously, we don't want to go back to square one when we were 3 months ago. So I think there's a lot of the anxiousness of going back, but the unknown as well.
Yeah, and that's been a consistent theme on Thursdays is the unknown piece, and then also for a few conversations, it's been that fear piece, right? And there's a lot of, and you're talking about fear of what may happen physically, but also fear of kind of where he left off from when I stopped, to fear of, will I still have my position? Fear of how's the season gonna kind of progress?
Right.
Right. So there's so many layers of this anxiousness and fear that's coming about that coaches, athletes are talking about. Any thoughts in regards to, as you're coming back, some things to put in place to kind of lower that anxiety and fear?
Yeah, Peter, I think you said it perfectly, is that I try to tell people everyone's coming back in the same position. We'll all have a little bit of unknown, not sure what's going to happen. We're all going to be a little bit deconditioned, playing sports. You could run on a treadmill to train for hockey, but until you're actually out there cutting, moving, pivoting, lateral movement, forward, forward check, back check. Game condition is a lot different from actually dry land. You can try to get close to it, but just to put people at ease that everybody's going to be back almost in the same position, and just knowing that, just to realize that we're here, we're going to keep them safe, we're going to have things put in place for them so they feel safe.
Yeah, I like that. And as you're mentioning that, it feels like more of the process, right? So trying to be able to get people to think about this as a process, and it feels like also that we're all in this together.
Of course.
I know you and I have that hockey history that we share, but also I know you coach other sports and have been around so many other sports. The team one is a little bit easier, that we're all in it together.
Right.
But I think it can still be done from an individual sport too.
Agreed.
I'm thinking about swimming or taekwondo, where they're still training in the group.
Of course. So
I still think the coach and the leader of the group will really have a huge impact as athletes and teams come back.
I mean, when you're coaching young kids, U10, obviously you got to hit the parents first. You got to make sure that there's things in place to put them at ease, and then have that discussion. I always like to do talk to the team as a whole with the parents included, so they know kind of where I'm coming from as well. We've done a couple. I haven't done it in a while, but I've done some Zoom meetings for my son's teams, and it's helped just to say, I'll keep you up to date when I know. I let them know that there's this webinar tonight. I let them know we had a staff meeting last week. Where we are, where things could go. But again, obviously things depend on how things go. If we don't want things spiking. So as of June 8th is such a huge date here in Massachusetts. We got to keep an eye on that.
Yeah. And as you talked about, you added the leadership piece to the coaching.
Yeah.
And what your colleague mentioned too about athletics, I think being able to be a part of it with the parents too, like listening to their concerns. It's going to be some work. It's work regardless in normal times, but it seems like it's going to be some different work that's going to go into coming back.
Yeah, coaching over about 25 years. Obviously none of us have experienced this. So it'll be interesting how, if we get back on the ice this summer, being able to finish up with tryouts, get a few other players, but also going into the fall, how that's going to look. Because then you're not only talking about that, you're also talking about what is it going to look like at the rink. They're getting dressed in there before they get to the rink. There's going to be no locker room. I guess the challenge will be on the bench. But also, how is that going to transfer over to when school starts back in September? I have no idea.
Yeah,
none of us know right now.
Right. And we're having a conversation, and you're kind of bringing forward some information that you're getting it, right? So you're getting it as we're chatting. You're getting it this morning. You're going to say tonight is another meeting. So
yeah,
we're having this conversation, and it's constantly moving, right? It's the fluidity of where we're at.
Right.
Hey, we're gonna keep on going, but I got 3 different pieces for you, but I'm gonna bring it out to the entire group. So in coming back, I want to look at parent. I want to take a look back at the coach, and then also to the athlete.
Okay,
right?
good.
And for everyone listening too, I want to kind of throw it out there. What do you think is an important mental skill or mental skills that each group must kind of bring as they come back? So what's an important mental skill or mental skills for the coach, for the parent, and then for the athlete?
That's good stuff. I mean, there's a lot. You're right. There's a lot. So I think if you're saying we'll start with the parents. again, parents just understanding, you know, where we're coming from, and just making sure that we're educated, we're giving them all the information and putting them at ease. Again, they're going to be anxious.
Yeah.
So how do we put them at ease? I just think education, really listening to them, understanding them especially because they're young. Well, especially the group that I coach, they're young. Let's put them at ease. How am I going to put them at ease? This is how I'll explain everything. This is how practice is going to run. This is how many people are going to be on the ice. This is what USA Hockey's recommending. Giving them every bit of information I have. You know, I think USA Hockey's talked about putting cages like shields on masks to keep, and they found that it actually reduced 96% of germs transmitted around. Letting them know this is what they found. Put them at ease about how it's all going to work out. Lay it out. And I think the more information we give them, and the kids too, and the players, then there's they're not caught off guard, they're not anxious. Everything's planned to a T, just kind of how I run my practice anyways.
Yeah. And what you're saying, and it kind of felt you were going with talking about the parent, but then it kind of fell into the coach, right? So the coach has to be the educator, more task-oriented, it felt like, right? I got to lay it all out for them, so they have all the information that they can go away with to be able to understand where we're going with it.
Yeah, and question anything. I always say open door policy. Just shoot me an email, call me, you know, spend some time. But, you know, when we do go on the ice, you know, that's the stress. But I'm hoping to answer all their questions, or hopefully coaches will answer all the parents' questions, put everybody at ease before they go onto the ice or the field or the court or whatever sport.
Yeah. And for those who are listening right now, please feel free in regards to, we're talking now about the coach and the parents. We will talk about the athlete. But if you have any thoughts or comments that you want to throw out there that you want us to talk about or just bring out so we can kind of put it out there and chat about, you let us know. Any other coach aspects that you think will be helpful in this transition back to sport?
I just think educating myself just make sure how I'm going to handle it different than the next person, the next kid. Like I'm always educating our kids of what's going on. This is how it's transmitted, but this is why we got to stay a certain distance. You know, making sure that that they're well aware of what's going on. I guess that's pretty much. I think that would be the easiest thing to, and obviously the most obvious thing is just to keep them up to date, what's going on, but also, transmission and just keeping everybody at a safe distance at this point.
Yeah, and it almost feels like making them feel a certain way, a little bit more at ease by giving them the information that they need to know.
Yeah, and then, never making it, forcing them that they have to go and do something. You obviously want to make sure that they're in control of their decisions. I know we talked about controlling the controllables. That's an important thing. Controlling how you react to it, how you perceive it, how you see it. I say it to my teams all the time. You can control how your attitude and your effort, and I go, it's the same thing. Like how this is perceived, get the right information, and just making sure they're putting it at ease.
Yeah, I like that, and that's been a theme of ours too. Just kind of controlling the controllables, right? And there's going to be so much out of all your control, right?
Yeah,
especially the young athlete. The young athlete's going to be guided, going to have to be guided.
Right.
A lot more than ever before because it's so different than ever before for them.
Yeah, exactly. And who knows how much the parents giving, how much information the parents. Some parents are gonna almost just be very, some might not give all the information. That's fine. I'm not there but just to give them enough information, like, hey, this is what we need to do. We need to keep this distance. Don't share equipment. Don't share water bottles. You get yours. You're thirsty. You should have brought your own. Don't use somebody else's. Just not the time to do it.
Yeah. Hey, can we switch gears and go to the athlete now? So
sure, yeah.
Any mental skills that you think, be it young athletes, ones that are a little bit older, that might help them as they come back to sport?
I think I think a goal setting might be good for them. I think maybe some imagery, some things that they can see how they want to progress as they're getting back into this. and, you know, using imagery, how they would kind of perceive this, how they could kind of get back into the flow of where they were prior to all this pandemic. So I think that's important. And again, just a little relaxation. You know, some of them are going to be anxious. Let's teach them to breathe correctly. Let's get them to understand, you know, that, again, controlling their breath and the importance of when you feel like you're getting a little, you know, more chest breathing, let's get it more diaphragmatic breathing, more breathing through your belly to protect your body, keep your energy up, you know, and just hydrate, keep hydrated, keep your distance, you know, stay well rested. I think all those things kind of pertain to the athlete.
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned the imagery piece. And kind of as you were talking, I thought about the imagery piece, but also kind of how preparation is going to be different.
Yeah,
because you may, and again, we're talking a little bit more about hockey here, but as sports across the board, they're going to be coming into the arena, into the field, ready to go. They're going to have to do their prep at home. Right. So I think being able to think about where to do the prep, how to do it, when you're during a game, once you get back to a practice, how are you going to recover, right? So being very strategic with how you prepare and undertake those challenges.
Yeah, I mean, you know, as doing sports psych, as long as you have, it's having that, and even paying more attention to your routine, paying more attention so you're ready before you leave your house, get to your arena or court or field or pitch, and having all that stuff in place so you're not running around at those places looking for water, looking for your equipment, and really, because it's a little bit different, but putting that into their kind of their routine, prepping, kind of like you said, they're prepping themselves to get ready for this sport again, because it is coming from a different mindset now. We have to. The sports psych piece and as the coaching piece. It's a different time, and it's going to be challenging. But I'm up for the challenge. I'm actually looking forward to it.
Yeah, I love what you just said. Right, it is a challenge, and that's sport, right? Be it at different times, it's still a challenge. The challenge is just different.
Yeah, exactly. It's good.
Hey, I don't want to go off the rails, but you got me on the preparation piece.
Yeah.
And I've given out this one document to athletes that I've worked with in person, and it has all these words on it. Right? And I asked them, what are the words that you need to feel when you're at your very best, getting ready or when you played? And I've given this to so many athletes over the years, and across sports, they all say the same thing.
That's great.
And here, I'll go through them very quickly. It's just like 100 words, right? But when people are their very best, they always say the same thing. One is they have the right amount of energy across the board. It doesn't matter. You're a kayaker, you're a hockey player, you're a golfer, dart player. Right. Energy. Number two is you have to believe in yourself, right? That confidence, belief in oneself.
Right.
You have to be excited. Like you have to have that passion to play. And then a little bit of nervousness. Always. It's across the board, right? So it doesn't fail. It's always those words. There's a couple more that some people bring in based on the sport, but those are across the board. Right. And as you were talking, I'd be as an athlete, if I was coaching, I'd be saying, you know what? This is what you need to be, where you need to get to. You won't be 100%, but if you can have certain routines that can get you closer to those words, you'll be ready.
Agreed. Yeah, that's good. And you're right.
And it'll be interesting that how do you do it at home? How do you do it in the car? Because when you're in the car and you go to the arena and then you have 30, 40, 50, 60, maybe more time where you get prepared. But now you're going to go from home to the car to playing. Right?
Right.
It's going to be interesting as they get ready. And I think that imagery piece, however they fit it into their routine, I think is going to be so important overall.
And it is. And you're right, because some of these people are just going to come in and they're going to run onto the field or to the rink or to the court. They're just going to run in. And they're going to run back out into the car and so the bench is now, or their locker room is now their car.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a mobile locker room, so they're gonna get ready in the car and get ready, and then they're gonna come back up and they're done.
Or their bench, right? Like whenever they come back for hockey, a lot of work's going to be done on the bench.
Huge part. I mean, especially you get that 45 seconds of ice time, and then you come back off, and like, okay, this is now you get time. Like, what did I do well? What didn't I do well? What do I need to continue to do well, and what do I have to improve on? I mean, and it's just getting that confidence and getting them to understand that they have control. And I think that's the preparation is going to build their confidence.
Yeah. And I like what you're saying is that all of this is to be able to get better each and every week. And I think that would be the case during a regular year.
Right.
Would be that part about getting better week by week.
Right.
And here's Jason is asking, what will this do for parents who engage in car coaching?
It's a good question. That could, again, being a coach, maybe that's something we're going to have to address with the parents. Like, listen, this is, the pregame doesn't start with, you can get them ready. You can help them get ready, but to really get them focused, I guess, if you want to say. I don't want to say, but mentally ready, but yeah, focused on what they're doing is you don't want to overcoach. And that's the hard part is we both know was a former player and also doing your sports psych and working with student athletes. Some of those car rides there and home are the worst things in the world for kids.
Yeah.
And it's not, so that's a good question. It'll be a really challenging part. It's something we're going to have to, now be more aware of, and again, always educating the parents. Like, this is, if you have to have a conversation with your kids, this is what it should pertain. This is what it should look like. This is what it should not sound like, because you want it to come from them, but this is get them prepared so when they're coming, they're ready to go.
Oh, it's mental strength, mental development for the parent.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah.
I've not heard a parent say that, I really want to do poorly as a sport parent.
Right, yeah, exactly.
I don't do it well, but no one really comes out and say, I really want to, do this to the team or to my son or daughter in regards to get them distracted.
It's always important, even during a regular situation, it's always good to have the parents on board so they know what's going on. This whole situation has put us coaches in a position we have to even embrace the parents, even though some parents are going to be tough, but you embrace even the tougher parents and just educate them.
Yeah. Yeah. And what you said earlier too is that they're a part of this. It truly is. It should be a team approach, but it really is this time around as we get back to sport. It really does feel like that team approach will go a long, long way here.
I agree.
Hey, can you also just kind of touch on a little bit about HeadSet? You've been a part of HeadSet with us, and just kind of talking about the HeadSet system and what it could possibly do for athletes and coaches. Any thoughts about how this could be implemented with athletes and teams?
I mean, this is the best time, or even a month ago was probably the best time, because you and I had this conversation over and over again that these coaches and players say, we don't have really enough time to do the mental part. This is the best time to do it because you practice this, add it into your schedule, add it into your routine, and away you go. Interesting enough, talking to a club soccer coach, he had a player, she's U18, very, very anxious in the fall. And now with the pandemic, more anxious than ever. So we're slowly, I've actually spoke to her parents a little bit and sent her the program, and they just started yesterday. So I'm going to touch base with them probably tomorrow, probably the beginning of next week. But she's a perfect example of someone that would really need to add it into her regular schedule, because she's got her virtual workout she has to do. She's finishing up high school, so she's, for the year. So she's doing that. Then she was doing her workouts, and then she's adding HeadSet program into the mix too. So I think should be more than ready when tryouts. They're hoping for tryouts in July and August, so it should be even more ready for July and August.
Yeah, and like you're saying, it's just doing the work. It's different. You're not in your competitive season, but just doing little from mental workouts and physical workouts. It's just doing what you need to do to allow you to be prepared when you get back.
Right, exactly.
And that will be interesting. That's a part of me that's I'm very interested to be able to understand kind of what are the challenges when people get back. But it'd be so interesting to do like research on people who are doing work versus those who maybe did not do the work for whatever reason.
Right. Right. Yeah, that would be interesting to see those kind of numbers, how it worked out, and actually even to see the increase in the sports psych piece, because I think the mental performance is just super important, but even more challenging now for sure.
Yeah, and Jay has a question for you. He says, John, what are you seeing in elite 17 and 18-year-olds whose games may change for this season?
Well, I haven't seen anything in general, but I could see that talking to this one coach in particular that he is concerned with tryouts in July and August with a select few of young women who are kind of on the they're right there, for their skill wise and technical wise, but the mental part of their sport is kind of keeping them back a little bit. So he is hoping that a lot of what HeadSet can help them with is to kind of bring those levels even, especially now, because especially that one athlete who spoke about how she was quite nervous prior to this pandemic, and now I think she's probably more concerned of her health and maybe how she's going to do in tryouts July and August, because now you get a new set of it's a new season. You're going to have new players there. How she's going to stack up against them? Is she going to lose the spot? How she's going to keep herself motivated and skill-wise she can make it, but mental-wise, mental performance might be something that she's that can keep her from making the team or progressing on after in college.
And just to add to what you were saying, a conversation that I had earlier this afternoon was with a elite basketball coach. And he coaches young and older ones, but the 17, 18-year-olds. And he's saying that he's had some very interesting conversations because some 18-year-olds are going to come back for an additional year of high school or play because they didn't get scholarships. Again, these are on the Canadian basketball players who are wanting to go Division I in the U.S.
Okay.
Who had those opportunities, but it's just very hard, like you were saying earlier, in regards to athletics in the U.S. in regards to recruitment. So he's having conversations with them in regards to what might be the best course of action for them. But then he always went back to wherever you play, if you decide to take an additional year, the mental skills training part is going to be there. If you decide to take the offer wherever you're going to go, you have to be able to make the transition. And he said which it was hard for him to hear, but some of the athletes, he said, just decided to go to school, right? And I'm not saying that in a negative way. He didn't either. It's like, these kids are super smart. They're great athletes, but the school part is taking precedence and they're going to retire. And it's hard for him as a coach. But he even said, like, don't stop because you're still a student. You're still an athlete, a student where you're going to have to deal with this in your academic life because it's going to be, you're in a program now that's going to be difficult.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I went to, I did a PG year after high school, and it's just a strictly PG. And I've been reaching out to them to see if I'd be curious of how they're going to handle their incoming class this year, because it's only 1 year school. So how is that going to look? I mean, are these players going to just say, I can't do it? How are they going to do? I mean, they can't defer for a year because it's not like a 9 through 12 and then a PG. It's just strictly PG. That's it. It's a 1 year, one and done, and you're out the door. So how is that going to look for them? How is it going to look for their incoming class? And are some kids going to bypass that and just go to junior college or or community college and walk on. I don't know. And obviously a lot of people go to prep school. Like myself, I had to work on my studies. I had to be better at it. I wanted to play college hockey, so I went there to get a little bit more exposure. But mainly I was trying to there to focus on my academics, become a better student. So I'd be curious. I didn't hear back from them, but
Yeah.
I'm curious for some of their challenges and what they're hearing from their incoming class.
Yeah, but and again, you said so many great things that we're talking about. But one thing you mentioned earlier on was it was about the recruiter. Coming back to the recruiter again, is that I think there's going to be some success when the person or the group makes it more personal, right? That you show caring.
Yes.
Right, the coach or recruiter or
Yes.
the person who runs the organization or school makes it more about the athlete. And have a colleague friend who's with us, my tennis partner. He's under cousin Larry, but his real name is Anthony. And Anthony's just he's talking more about the athlete more holistically, right, and how we kind of use the holistic part, but kind of seen him as a person too.
Right.
And that will go, I think, will go a long way in regards to making them feel comfortable.
If you make a connection with them that you care about them other than what they can bring to the organization or the team, and that's just even during a regular situation, they'll appreciate that even more. But during this time, for sure, like I said, my friend that's been recruiting players, he's getting to talk to the parents and the players more on a personal level, getting more in depth of what's going on, and I think that's going to draw them in because he's just a personable guy that knows the sport of hockey. He's been coaching for such a long time and knows it, and that's just going to be the selling point. So I think he's selling not only himself, but he's selling the program and how he's going to be and take care of their kids because they're mainly just in the New England area, but they're from all over the place as well too.
Yeah, yeah. You know, and this might be something during the season. I just kind of thinking about this. It'd be interesting when sport comes back, how the conversation we're having, once you start getting the sport and there's wins and losses and batting averages and goals scored and goals against, will things change? Like, will it go from the process and controlling the controllables and talking about how the athlete feels and being a human being, and it reverts right back to performance?
It probably will, Peter, but I hope it doesn't. I hope it's one of those that people realize that it's like talking to my friend earlier. He's just saying, he goes, I'm going to make sure when we get on the ice to talk to the players and say, do you understand how lucky we are to be in the situation that we are now back on the ice where this could have been a wash for this coming season. So, obviously he's being optimistic, but, and at some point I think we'll get back to some normalcy and put people at ease. But yeah, I'm curious how people will react. I hope people do. I hope people realize that, it's more than performance is important, but all that other stuff is more important.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think individuals like yourself and your coaching staff and people who are doing this type of work, knowing the importance of these elements that we've talked about, you got to kind of continue them, right? Because we get into those old habits, right? So these new parts that we're talking about are opportunities.
Right.
Once you get back into playing, do we go back to some of the perspectives and behaviors that were in sport before? Right. I'm going to throw it back out to people. We're going to kind of tie things up here. We really kind of got into some of the next steps, right? It'll be interesting to touch base again soon in regards to like when sport really does come back and you're active, how things are.
Right.
But I'm going to throw it out there. Are there any questions or comments or thoughts, any that we missed? I think we might have missed a couple along the way as we were chatting.
I think someone just put, I look and say, the sport is still here, the setting has changed. And I agree. The setting's changed, and that kind of goes back to what you said, Peter, about perspective and how that's going to look when things get back. Are people going to lose that perspective and focus on performance and not the process and, what sport can actually bring to development?
Yeah. And again, I think it's little touch points like this, right? So if someone can see this and take those little nuggets, a coach, an athlete, a parent can go, all right, here are just some things that I'm going to bring forward and continue the message or bring a message forward to the teams that they're on. I think we've done some good here. So my tennis partner, cousin Larry, says, how do you benefit most from off-season period? And I don't know if there's more to it. How do you benefit most from the off-season period?
Is he saying, I'm thinking, is he, how are you benefiting from the offseason? I think that's when you not only get to physically kind of regroup yourself and recover from overuse or, nagging hip or arm, but also now you get to refresh a little bit because I think it's important to play other sports, do other things, swim, tennis, golf, running, anything, climbing trees. I know it sounds silly, but anything that's, doing rock climbing, anything that's different that's not pertain to your sport, I think that's just super important to do. Maybe that's what he's speaking of. I don't know.
I think so. I think so. And as you're saying, and just to add a part two, it would be, it's an opportunity, right? And that's the beauty of getting ready for a season, but taking advantage of an off season would be, I have this opportunity. I have this opportunity to be able to come back and do something and do something possibly different, right? Or more of, or yeah, to me, it's really that recovery. It's recovery of the body, recovery of the mind, feelings that you have. I really do see this as an opportunity for athletes.
Yeah.
And it's that mindset rather than the what ifs, and there will be.
Yes.
But what a great opportunity it is to come back and play a game that you are passionate about.
I think Jay had put something about how does an athlete raise their level from A to AAA. And I think it's almost like when you don't get that job and you ask the person who interviewed, what could I have done better? And it's an athlete should go to their coach. And if they're at the single A level, say, hey, what can I do to get to AAA? And I know not a lot of athletes are so forthcoming and want to ask the coach those things, but I think that's just so important to ask, what can I do differently how can I get to what am I lacking? Like my kids will ask me, Dad, what do I need to work on? Well, you need to work on stick handling, your shot. Your positioning's good. You always want to leave on the positive. Your positioning is good, work on your shot, your stick handling, but your position is good, and just focus on all those things, but really look at the stuff that you need to work on. I don't know. That's probably, I think that's probably a good place to start.
I agree. And it's almost like maybe not, this is what you can do now, right? So here's what you can focus on. Here's how you can train it to improve. And set that next goal, right? So it's wanting to do things so quickly, and that's just the sign of the times, right? I'm no different, right? But to be able to step back and go, all right, how do we get to where you want to get to? And I think that's important.
Yeah, I think that is just super important because when you're coaching at any sport, that these people want to get to the next level, and some of them are going to be able to make it, and you're not going to have to ask your coach, but some of them are going to say, hey, I came up with her. Why? What is she doing? What do I need to do to get to her level? Because I want to make it to the varsity level or, whatever the highest level of team.
Yeah. Yeah. And I haven't heard too many coaches not be okay with answering that question when it comes to it from an athlete, right? It's I think most of them are shocked when they may hear it, but it's a little bit extra work for them. But for a coach, I've heard them say, he's interested. She is wanting to. She is dedicating. It's often a positive reaction to the question that's given, right? It's all about improvement and learning. And I think that's so important for an athlete. And they got to chase after it, right? They got to plan for this.
Yeah, Peter, I also think it gives now it shows the coach that this player trusts you. That you're because if they weren't, and again, if the player wasn't trusting, they're probably I'm not even going to ask the coach because I don't trust them that they're able to get me to where I'm going or need to go.
Yeah. Oh, well said. Well, it comes back again. It's really right? We've gone in different places, but we're bringing stuff often today together in regards to how this works between coach, athlete, bringing in the parent, that team approach. And it really is building that trust. It really is, right? And I think that's a great place to, like, yeah, he or she trusts me with making that kind of leap of faith, right? Taking that risk to ask, how can I improve?
And that takes a lot of guts. That's what I tell kids. I tell kids all the time, that took guts to come to the coaches and ask those things. And I commend them on that. And then we proceed on what I feel that they need to work on to continue and get better.
Yeah, I agree. My friend, this was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
If you're okay with it, I say we do it again.
I appreciate it. That would be great.
When you're in it, just to get the real life, what you're experiencing, what you're hearing from your coaches, your athletes, your parents. I think that'd be a wonderful catch up together to bring it back together again.
That would be great, Peter. Thanks for the time.
Yeah, me too. All right. Have a good afternoon, and we'll touch base soon. We'll get together soon.
Take care. Thanks.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.